Now it's finally time to talk about you and your cover letter. A great cover letter accomplishes four key things. First of all, it introduces your resume and you as a viable candidate for the position that you're applying for. It definitely showcases your written communication skills. It creates interest in you and it allows you to sell yourself and your skills to your future employer. Remember that your cover letter is a sales letter. It sells your talents and abilities. It needs to be persuasive. And it's not a duplication of your resume. You don't just take the information from your resume and recraft it into a few paragraphs. It's a very unique opportunity for you to introduce yourself. And again, they need to see a match between the position you are applying for and you through your cover letter. A cover letter has what's called you attitude and positive emphasis. You attitude means it describes exactly what you have done and relates to what you can do for the employer. Similar to your accomplishment statements from your resume, you're talking about things you have actually done. This leads them to believe that you can do great things for them in the future. I want to give you a couple of examples here. When I say lacks you attitude is a statement like, I am an inventive and improvising individual and I would be an asset to your organization. You're basically just giving me a couple of adjectives about who you think you are, but I'm not really understanding what you've done. However, a sentence like, building a summer house painting business gave me the opportunity to find creative solutions to challenges. This tells me what you've done and really gives me an opportunity to think about what you can do for me. If you were able to build a successful business over the summer and you're able to be creative and find solutions to challenges, then I know that you can do the same thing for me in my business. There's a couple of basics I want to review with you. First of all, your cover letter has to be customized each time you apply for a position. Again, take a look at the job posting. Make sure that they see a match between the key things they're looking for and the things that you've done, and make sure those are included in your cover letter. You always want to identify the position you are applying for. Remember, companies may be having job postings for dozens of positions. So right on the front of the cover letter, I'm going to talk about in just a second, where you identify the position it is that you're applying for. Every sentence should demonstrate enthusiasm for the company and the position. You want to be very specific about your qualifications, and again, talk about your experience, both soft and hard skills, as they relate to the job posting to separate you from other candidates. There are three primary parts in this one-page document. There's an opening that gets attention, a body that builds interest, and a closing to motivate some action. The key information required: the date, the inside address, a formal salutation, an introductory paragraph with a line, a body paragraph, a closing paragraph, your contact information, and your signature. I'm going to walk through each of these sections. A cover letter is put in something called block letter format, which means it's left justified on the page. You do not need to indent your paragraphs. There are two spaces between each paragraph, and there's what we call an even border around the edges, typically a 1-inch border all the way around. And we say that it is centered top to bottom. We don't mean centered in the middle of the page. I mean centered in terms of when I print it and take a look at it, there should be enough white space at the top to match the white space at the bottom. So it should be nice and centered evenly on the page. It is important to always print your cover letter and take a look at it yourself. You'll be able to see if things look a little too squished or if you haven't put enough spaces between paragraphs. That becomes very evident when you print it and take a look at this one piece of paper. So let's walk through what goes. For block letter format, the date goes at the top left. That's the very first thing. And you always use the full date format. For instance, September 15th, comma, 2012. We don't take shortcuts like 09/15/12. That's considered tacky or not formal. This is a very formal letter, perhaps the most formal letter that you're ever going to write. So we really take our time and make sure that we spell everything out, like the full date. So that's the very first thing that's going to go at the top of the letter. After a few spaces, we put the full address with postal code. This is called the inside address. This is who this is going to. You list the person's full name, so for instance, Mr. Robert E. Smith, and their full title, Director of Human Resources, for example. Then the company full name, and then the company full address. I'm going to give you a couple of tips here. Very often job postings are missing some key information. They might give you, for instance, a person's title but not their full name, or perhaps they give you all the information but the postal code. This is a test. Companies do this on purpose. I know I did this on purpose. I would leave off key information such as my name and perhaps the postal code. And the first thing I do when I look at this first piece of paper I'm getting from a candidate is to see if they've done their homework and found the information. Did they call the company and find out who this needed to go to? And did they verify the postal code? Or did they just send it with the information that I gave? So do your homework here. As part of the assignment for this course, this is one thing I'm asking you to do. With the job posting, go and find out who it's going to. Look on their company website or call the company and find out who do resumes go to. This is your first test and you need to pass it. After the inside address, you put a few spaces, and then this is the important part, the salutation or the greeting. Here again, you want to try to make sure you have the name of the person that this cover letter and resume is going to. Always try to get this information because this personal touch distinguishes your letter and demonstrates that you have serious interest in this company. If you get a name like, for instance, Chris, Terry, or Pat, and if you're unsure whether this is male or female, then you could use something like Dear Chris Jones. If, as a last resort, you cannot find the person's name, you could put, for instance, Dear Sir, Madam, or Dear Human Resources Contact or Human Resources Department. But again, try to get a personal name. Another tip to remember is things that are addressed to a specific person within an organization often get there much faster than something addressed to a general department. If it goes to a general department, it may get passed around amongst many people before it finds the right person, if it ever finds the right person. Whereas if you're addressing a letter to a specific person, it will get there right away. Now there's a couple different ways that we want to put, for instance, this re line. Re stands for regarding. And we put regarding here to tell them exactly regarding which job we are applying for. Often, for instance, if we're told to quote a job posting number, this is exactly where it goes. So this tells them what job it is you're applying for. So right after the salutation, you would put re with a colon, job posting number, and then also the title of that job posting as well. Again, they may have many job postings up. In this example, they may have posting number 1175 for electrical engineer. They may have 1179 for electrical assistant. So you want to make sure you call out the title as well as the number here. So that's one place that you're going to put if you have that information. The second thing now, this is your first paragraph. So let's dive into what goes into the letter once we've got through the inside address and the greeting and the regarding line. If you are applying for from a referral, so here somebody you know works for the company, this is a great soft way to apply. The great thing here is that employers hope to hire someone that is a known quantity rather than a complete stranger. So if this is a job posting that someone you know who works there has provided to you, this opening paragraph is a great way to tell them right away that you know someone there. Here are a couple of examples. Mitchell Sims, a member of your security department, told me that PK Associates is seeking an experienced person. The attached summary of my qualifications demonstrates my preparation for this position. Or, at the suggestion of Mr. Mitchell Sims of your security division, I submit my qualifications for the position of security associate. So that's one way through a referral that you could open up your letter in that first paragraph. Another way is if you're applying from a job posting. In that case, you could open with something like, "It was with great interest that I read your job posting for a mature and reliable operations supervisor advertised on the job bank website." You tell them exactly where you heard about the job, and again, you're telling them the title of the position that you're applying for. A third way to open a letter is what we call from unsolicited. Don't ever be afraid to apply for jobs unsolicited. I know I've obtained many positions what we call unsolicited, that hidden job market, where there's no job posting and I don't know anyone that works there, but boy, do I want to get a job at that company. In that case, I'm going to open my cover letter with something like, "Thank you for reviewing my credentials for a possible position of operations supervisor with your organization. As you'll see by my reviewing the attached resume, I have the education and qualifications that your organization requires." Something short and sweet. Remember, you want them to keep reading. So now let's talk about the main piece of your cover letter, the body. This is typically 2 paragraphs, sometimes just one big paragraph. But in here, this really outlines your special talents and the background, and they have to be able to see that match to the job. Remember, you're building interest. You want them to continue reading and get to your resume. But here's the opportunity for you to develop more of your qualifications and show them what separates you from everybody else. These body paragraphs or paragraph is an opportunity again for them to see a match between you and the job. So go back to the job posting and hit on some key points through some accomplishment statements. Build some interest in you as a match for this job with your, again, hard and soft skills. Here's a great sentence from a student who is applying for a job in court support services. "My 3-year advanced diploma in court support services, along with the highest marks in courses such as ethics, report writing, and law, have helped me develop the research and writing skills required to be a successful court administrator." Ding, ding, ding. There were a few things from the job posting, such as research and writing being critical, that she's weaved in through here to talk about highest marks, courses that she's taken, and also that she's demonstrated the ability to use research and writing skills. So well done. All right, here's another example. And there's a little story to go with this one. So I had a student who listed one line on their resume about their volunteer work, literally just one line. And as we talked about the job they were applying for and the skills that this company was looking for, they were looking for someone who was extremely dedicated, adaptable, someone who would have a strong commitment to the organization, and also someone who went above and beyond. I asked the student about this volunteer work, about what they did, how much time they spent, and we crafted together a body paragraph that really helped sell their skills and their abilities by expanding upon that one line from their resume and building this into an amazing connection between the job and their cover letter and the future company that he wanted to work for. So here's what we came up with. During my first semester at Durham College, I became involved as a volunteer with the Disability Office. This placement has provided me with over 100 hours of great experience working with people that have mild to severe learning disabilities. My duties have included extensive note-taking and providing study help to participants in the program. This ongoing volunteer position has helped me further develop my teamwork, multitasking, and stress management skills. My many references from this position will attest to the positive impact I have had while volunteering with this program over the last 3 years. Bam! That's an amazing paragraph. Think about it. This company is looking for someone who's extremely dedicated and hardworking. Well, this student's telling me that over 3 years, he volunteered for over 100 hours. Volunteered. He also talks about that he has many great references from this position. Great. And guess what? The job posting also mentions that they're looking for someone who has great teamwork skills, the ability to multitask, the ability to work under stress and pressure. And this is all included in this amazing paragraph. Again, this is very focused on what he's done. So it's not just a laundry list of adjectives of I'm great at teamwork, multitasking, and stress management, which means nothing to your future employer. This ability to demonstrate something that you've done with a positive end result really helps them see how you would be a great fit for their organization. The hard work is in that body paragraph or paragraphs. But now when we get to the closing paragraph, it's pretty straightforward. You want to restate your interest in the job and outline how you can be reached for a call and an interview. And you're basically asking for the interview here. For example, I look forward to meeting you to discuss the employment opportunity at XYZ company. I can be reached at 905-555-1234 or via email at donjohnson@gmail.com. I hope that I may have the privilege of a personal interview. Thank you in advance for your consideration. Now, you might be saying, why do I have to give them my phone number and email address again? It's already included in my resume. But here you can list what the best way to reach you is. So for instance, if you don't care whether they call you or email you, then you list both. But perhaps you could say, I prefer to be reached via email, or I prefer to be reached via cell phone. You can include that here. Again, make sure your email address does not include a hyperlink because it's very hard for them to read if there's a big line underneath it. So make sure it's clear and concise. A few spaces, then sincerely with a few spaces for your signature, and you type your name. Now, in the old days, you would actually physically sign your name and send this in with your name typed underneath. So if they couldn't read your signature, they could clearly understand what your name was. Today, most of us just use an electronic signature or a nice font where we've got our name printed here. So in the electronic age, if you're not printing this out and handing it in physically, you could just use an electronic signature here. This is a formula in that it's one page. It's very formula-like in that you're having this date, inside address, salutation, the reline, paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3, sincerely, a signature, and your name. Your cover letter booklet has suggestions for each one of these areas. Each one of the paragraphs, there are samples of paragraph 1, body paragraph sentences, and how to close out your cover letter. So use this valuable resource as you craft your own cover letter. Remember, you want the reader to move forward to getting to your resume. You have to remember that it is a sales letter, and it's an opportunity for you to tell more of your story. And it has to be compelling enough for the reader to want to move on to read your resume. You don't want them to get to the end of your cover letter and say, I don't think we need to go any further. Just like your resume, it has to be perfect. If there are spelling, grammar, formatting errors in a cover letter, they will not move on to take a look at your resume. It will end up in the file for G under garbage. We don't want that to happen. So it has to be perfect. Again, print it off, take a look at it, hand it out to family and friends, and ask them to proof it for you before you send it in. Get it right the first time so that it's perfect and you get the call for the job.